We're not going to take another 4 years, though, Todd, are we? Okay.
I hope not.
All right. Speaking of which, I got to bring Todd back for his long-awaited PowerPoint presentation. So let's give him a round of applause here. Okay.
Thank you. Perfect. I'll be quick, and I think the first thing to say too is my 75-year-old mother watches these.
Yeah.
The last time, for those who were here, remember I was, a little bit agitated maybe at the start, and the only comment I got back from her was, your message was fine, but you need to quit moving around so much and just stand and get your message across. So I'll try not to move as much tonight, and I guess I should say hello, Mother, when she goes to sit there and watch this. So I wanted to, I have intentionally actually not participated in the presentations on this, but I feel like we're at a point where, as we've been working together on this, where you can't help to go home at night sometimes and say, all right, is this ever going to become a reality, or what are we trying to accomplish here? And I just want to show you, you'll see in this what can happen when we all do work together. And then additionally, I know, and I try to ignore them, even though Rose gets on me, but I know every now and then there's a nice op-ed that comes in, usually on a Saturday morning, and it's interesting to, having worked on this project for many, many years, that I still learn new information when I read the op-eds. For such a educated community, it amazes me how we can be so strong in our vocabulary and the phrasing, but somehow we just we miss some of the factual information that's in there. So, but I wanted to, as I said, just sort of bring up to speed on some of the things that we have going on around the U.S. And I mean, we're in the business of doing this, and you'll see this as you walk through, where our portfolio is constantly changing. You'll see a reference here to Charleston at the end of this, and about 18 months ago, we did $1 billion acquisition up in Charleston, South Carolina. We acquired about 500,000 acres from Westvaco, and it was really fun for me because the due diligence started on it 10 days after my child was born 2 years ago. So I scored a lot of points at home when I had to tell my wife 10 days into the newborn that I had to go to Charleston for a few weeks. The portfolio is constantly changing. So you'll see we'll probably have some sales that'll take place. And I did laugh where, I guess our CEO has now said that we are going to sell all of our Alachua land. I don't think he's ever said that, but my hope is that we do sell it all. And you're going to see what happens when we sell it, because I'm going to take you sort of through how this process works. So, one of our other major projects going on here locally that we've talked about is our inland port up in North Florida. And I just want to take you through just, some of the things that, as much time as we've spent on the approval process, my focus really is not on that. My focus is on what does it take to make this a reality. Karen talked about empty promises. To me, getting this thing through the approval process one way or another, that's just a start. I mean, we have a need that exists here today that we need to sit there and solve this gap. And it's not going to sit there and solve itself. And there's many parts to this whole process of being able to sit there and land the end user. So up in Columbia County, we have about a 2,600 acre project we're working on. And you can see it sits we own about 140,000 contiguous acres from Lake City to Lake Butler over to the Duval County line. Interesting, you see how we have a distance on here to the Port of Tampa. This was from a meeting that we just met with the port a couple weeks ago, where we're working on an MOU with the Port of Tampa, and we're also in the foreign trade zone for the Port of Jacksonville. But this is all about developing partnerships to work together on this, and you have to sit there and think globally. But the irony, if you look at everything that comes up on rail from the Port of Tampa Bay, goes right along the rail line right through Hawthorne on 301. And so I view this down the road. We're probably going to want an MOU from the Gainesville Chamber with the Port of Tampa Bay. So that's, a piece of it, what we're working on. Again, here's sort of the 2,600 acre makeup. One thing that's different on here, there's 500 acres that have been designated as a catalyst site for economic development for the rural counties, for the 14 rural counties around it. And our, I guess this, as much fun as Alachua County is to deal with over the last year through this process, we had about equal as much fun working through an easement with the U.S. Forest Service that we were able to get done earlier this year. This was something that we had been working on for 5 years, where we did not have access to the rail for our project, so we needed to get a 5-acre easement from the Forest Service that we were able to pull off. So where we're at right now on this is we are working on with our partners from CSX of what the rail is going to look like, with DOT, what the crossing is going to look like on 90, what the site plan is going to be. And then another piece of this, which is really important, is we're working with a company called McCollum Sweeney for site certification. And what they do, if we have our first end user, and I can't wait to have Susan come up after this and talk about some of the projects we're working on, but when we have companies that want to locate, the last thing that they want to have to deal with is going through any type of approval process. They don't want to have to deal with land use. So what they'll do is for especially some of the big fish, they want to go to an area that is certified as shovel ready. So what does it mean to sit there and be shovel ready? Well, we're working through McCollum Sweeney, and this will give you a little feel for what it takes to be shovel ready. You have to sit there and solve really pretty much every piece of the development so that they are able within 90 days to begin some type of construction. So it's everywhere from the acreage to dealing with the flood zones, to making sure the zoning's in place, rail, water, wastewater, natural gas, electric service. You can just see, I'm not going to read through all of them. Another big one in there is free of wetlands, or you have a mitigation plan in place. So you're looking at everything off of it. So for the North Florida Intermodal Park, we probably spent about 18 months working through this whole process to go through and get it to where it was shovel ready to go. And it's working with the local communities in that. But again, to land the big fish, it's what you have to do. When they come into places, when they're on their search, they're just looking for a reason to sit there and say no. And that's the problem that we have right now here of what we're trying to get accomplished through this, is until we can get the land use done, it's hard for us to do some of this other stuff to sit there and push it forward. So, McCollum Sweeney, as you can see, there's only actually a few sites that are certified, only a couple within the state of Florida, but they really are sort of the gold standard in the Southeast when it comes to end users. So we fortunately got our certification, and then with the rail easement done, we're getting ready to start marking on it now. And I guess I also need to thank Scott, because his office has really been involved in this project from day one and has really helped sit there and push this along, and Scott's been a great partner for us. We have another project we're working on up in Georgia, and as I said, this is the business we're in, and I laugh off of this because first of all, we do own a lot of Georgia. We're the largest landowner in Georgia. We have about 800,000 acres, and guess what? It looks like we also give foundation grants in Georgia too. So this could be the only community that we've ever been in where. We try to sit there and support the community, and by the way, I think we've owned the land in Alachua County for now 14 years. So I guess if we're just doing a flip on this, then we're not very good flippers. But ironically enough, for the first 10 years of community grants, we really didn't get a lot of negative feedback, and now we've started this process, and it's interesting because what I've taken from it is the opposite. Is unfortunately, I wish we had more dollars to give here locally, because there's not enough dollars to sit there and go around, and our needs are real. So up in Georgia, our site up there, you can't see it. It's right here, right on the middle of Interstate 16. Here's Savannah, here's Macon, here's Atlanta. So we're, same type of concept here. You connect into the ports. We have the Port of Savannah, we have the airport, we have the interstate, and so, we have here 2,000 acres that is right along Interstate 16. You can see location. We're still working on the rail access, the electricity. We're going through a McCollum Sweeney process with this. But again, as we continue to talk land use here, here's some of the things that we're working through the process. The community stakeholder engagement, which is really what we're doing here. I think we've identified our project site, but you can see it's the data collection, the master planning, the certification, and then ultimately bringing it to a reality. So there's a lot to this, and really what keeps me up at night is not this approval, because as I said, the worst thing that can happen is for this to get approved and then for us to sit there and have an empty promise. And this is all about making this a reality. So, and I had to throw this picture in because guess what? We do community stakeholder engagement outside of Alachua County. Here we are up there. Our view on these projects, and we're a little bit different, is that it's important for all of us to work together to sit there and plan it. We have a lot of folks who also live in the community up there, but these projects, it needs to be all of us working together to sit there and make it reality. Not going to go through the details of that, but as you can see, there are many steps that go into this whole process. And again, here we're just focused on just this piece of it right there. But this is just a small piece, I guess, of the broader concept. So you might say, all right, why would you go to all the trouble to sit there and do that? Just, does that make sense from a business perspective? Well, as Daniel alluded to, there was a major announcement in South Carolina about a month ago where Volvo has made the decision to locate a automotive plant in North America. They're going to export probably about 80% of their final product. It's going to be a $500 million investment, 2,000 jobs. Initially, 4,000 jobs, direct jobs upon when it's fully up and running. And so you might say, all right, well, how do you know all this? Well, because we ended up having 2 of the 5 sites that were finalists for the Volvo plant in the U.S. So we had our site within Georgia was a finalist, and then part of why we know this is because it's locating on property where Plum Creek acquired and has been involved in this process when we acquired our lands from Midwest Vaco. So Volvo's coming in to purchase 800 acres, and just very, very exciting. And you want to sit there and talk about a game changer for the region. And as I said, $500 million investment, but when you start looking at the multiplier effect of what this brings, it's huge. And so the folks in Charleston are not too disappointed with our land sale. And so that's, where my hope is off of this is that we have many of these that take place, because ultimately that's what this is all about. And, and the irony here, when I look at this, is we were up doing our visit in Greenville, South Carolina, and you look at all that was going on there, and they said they were jealous of Gainesville for one reason, and that is that they were 40 miles away from Clemson, and they would love to have a research institution with the power of University of Florida right in their backyard. So we have it. So I'm not saying it's going to be Volvo that locates here next, but for my friends out there who said this is just about rezoning, well, yeah, you're right. That's a piece of it, and there's about 50 other steps that have to happen along the way to get there. But this is what we're playing for, and these opportunities, I think, working closely with UF, that we have a lot of potential upon making this a reality. And before I pass it on to Susan, Daniel's article, that's the cover story of Florida Trend this month, talking about University of Central Florida and University of South Florida. And if you don't want to think this is a in-state competition, all I'll say is just go look at the budget that got approved. Look at the dollars that went to UF as compared to the dollars that went to UCF and the dollars that went to USF. And this is a war that's being fought right now. And like it or not, our competition, while we continue to have this discussion, is rolling on, and they're not going to sit there and stop and wait for us to catch up or figure out how we're going to get this done. So now you can see why they never let me present at these. But I'll pass this over. I want to bring up Susan here, and as she said, Tim Giuliani took the position where he was recently hired as the president of the Raleigh Chamber, which I think is great because it tells me we must be doing some really good things here, that our talent here is that well thought of. But that being said, I think probably one of the most important individuals we have within the chamber is Susan, and Susan has just vast experience. I know many of you know her, but she played a very pivotal role at the Austin Chamber and has been in this situation before. And for this all to happen, it's going to need to be a partnership with Jack and our friends from UF, with Santa Fe. But at the same point in time, I think one of the most important individuals to making this happen is having the strong support of the chamber, and I look forward to working with Susan on that. So I'll bring her up.
Thank you, Todd. Is this on?
Yeah, there we go.
Well, just to give you a quick update on our strategy and where we are, I believe the last time I was here, we were somewhat unveiling the 5-year strategy and the elements of the plan and what we anticipated doing over the next 5 years. And so as we get started, I just want to remind you of the big picture as we flip through these slides of what this plan was about. Again, it's your 5-year economic development plan that commenced January 1. This plan had 4 major buckets of activity into it. The plan had been developed by strategists outside the region who had come in, focused on various industry sectors, and said there are 4 big buckets of activity you need to undertake to grow jobs and capital investment in your area, leveraging all of the assets that are so rich from this region. And so as we look at those buckets, it was marketing, AKA what a story you have to tell that needs telling. B, it's enhanced business development and everything that it takes to do economic development at the next level. The third was basically regionalism and game-changing projects from the area, working better together as a region and leveraging opportunities. And then the fourth was investor relations. And the metrics for this strategy were to add 3,500 new jobs to this region over 5 years, which would have an indirect impact of another 2,400 indirect jobs, in other words, jobs that would follow those first 35. We would add $250 million in new regional investment in the area. That would enhance the regional payroll by $218 million, and we would have a $1 billion increase in game-changing projects around the region. We would focus on 5 various industry sectors. That would be bioscience, life science, agricultural science, software IT, advanced logistics, and advanced manufacturing. We would be looking at those 5 sectors to bring in those 3,500 jobs, and the rest will follow because of them. So keeping that in the back of your mind, I want to tell you where we are in June. So we're 6 months into the strategy. Here is our 2015 Council for Economic Outreach leadership. You can see up there the individuals who are leading the council. We added a council member at the request of one of the regional investors, and that was a good thing. It gives us more bandwidth as we undertake these activities. And here's really what we look at. How many different organizations or entities are actually putting money into the strategy, which are allowing us to undertake these activities. And this is a little over $6 million has been pledged over a 5-year period of time. And I can tell you that that number is probably increased a little bit since this slide came on board. We are continuing to have people, honestly, who have outreached to us and asked if they could take part in this, which is a good sign for us. People are beginning to understand the significance of everything that you have heard tonight and how critical this is to the future of this area and to the people that live here. So 68 different organizations have pledged a little over $6 million to undertake this 5-year strategy. So let's talk about now the buckets. I want you to look at this. Project results, announcements complete. One of the things we promised the CEO Council was we will not populate this until those announcements are made. Some of these projects take 12, 24 months to get underway. The point is you've got to fill that pipeline with activities and projects so that they can go on this board when the announcements are made. So we are staying true to that. We won't put one thing up there until an official announcement is made. So the project base, or the number of opportunities we're seeing, if you remember last year, our goal was to double that from January to December, and we did that. We went over 70 new projects. There were 35 at the beginning of the year, and that was without any really proactive or new marketing efforts. We did that off of all of just our collective activities, and that's a good sign because it showed us what the potential would be when we actually really geared this thing up. So it was a great test. Now here's what we're seeing right this minute. I put what I call the hot projects. Those are projects that we're actively working that are in stages of what we believe are finalization. Never is anything 100% done until it goes on that board that you saw just a minute ago. But these are all in various stages of finalization that we believe will lead to announcements. We have about 5 projects up there with $100 million in capital investment and 500 new jobs. If you look at them, 3 are in the advanced manufacturing sector. 1 is a cybersecurity company, and 1 is a clean energy or clean technology company that is also in the advanced manufacturing sector. Again, these are projects that we have worked and undertaken due to leads that have come to us through our work with the state of Florida and Enterprise Florida. I'll speak about that in just a moment, as well as some of the proactive marketing trips we undertook during the year last year. There is also 1 international project, a binational accelerator program that we are actively working to close. You'll be hearing about all of these things in the upcoming probably quarter. But these are really what we call hot projects, and then we have about 70 additional projects that we are still working. The key to this, and what I think you need to take with you, is the official marketing outside of our area has not yet commenced. We have continued to do in the region marketing and statewide outreach, but the official global marketing that we are getting ready to undertake has not yet commenced. So in my opinion, and one of the most common things that happens when we visit companies and we talk about the assets here and we talk about what is being undertaken, the thing they always say is, wow, I had no idea. Mm-hmm. It's almost universal. I can almost say it for them when I go into meetings now. I know you had no idea, didn't you? And they will say that constantly. So I feel very comfortable that the story is strong and that when the actual intensive marketing begins, we'll be able to further group together additional opportunities. One of the things that I also wanted to say on the metrics, and you remember the board that's up there, the final, these are secondary metrics that we're also undertaking on the talent, innovation, and opportunity. We've had a task force, 3 individuals from our CEO Council offered to take a look at how do the rest of what we're doing under Transforming Greater Gainesville actually affect the region. And so they're looking at all of these different metrics to understand all of the various ways that bringing the economic opportunities to the area will enhance our regional economy, our community, our way of life, and the economic prosperity for everyone that lives in this region. And so these are just a few of the things they are currently working on and metrics for what we will call a community scorecard. Here are the 2015 CEO Council committees. These are the groups of executives who we have asked to lead committees to help us develop these opportunities and work them, bringing to the table those that can help us as we outreach and market. The Advanced Manufacturing Council are 15 regional executives who have undertaken some amazing projects this year. They wrote a 17-county, they led a 17-county IMCP application, a grant to the federal government or a request to certify this region as one where investments in manufacturing would be a smart investment from the federal side. And it spans multiple areas of the federal government who are investing funds in regions. That application is out there. It was a monumental effort. I can tell you it looks really strong, and we have parts of our policy team and others from the chamber working to solicit those kind of activities and outreach to the federal government to try to be sure we can get that over the goal line. We continue to work on that constantly. The Gainesville Tech Council, you may have heard, that has 13 new board members from software and IT companies throughout the region. They have now, as their primary focus on ensuring that we have a ready supply of programmers, have backed 2 entrepreneurs who have put together the Gainesville Dev Academy, and that will be a software programming, IT programming institute for burst training on programming so that we can extend those educational opportunities to a broader reach to the community. They have partnered with the University of Florida as well as Santa Fe College with some incredible talent from both institutions to help teach that and ensure that we actually have the programmers to fill the jobs that are needed. There's a huge shortage of that around the country. We want to be ready when these opportunities hit us. So that is going in place. I had lunch today as we walked through the curriculums with the University of Florida and the College of Engineering and the software groups who will be teaching those. The Ag Science and Tech Committee is our most recent committee that we're working to put together this year. They've had their initial formation meeting, and we look to have them back together soon. They honed in very, very, very quickly in about an hour and a half on the need for a science and research park for agricultural and science technology. Flat out, need it, got to have it. When we were out in Silicon Valley, it was amazing all of the ag tech funds that are being put together now because they know where one of the biggest opportunities are today, and that's in the agricultural and science technology area. So we want to get out in front of that as well. Regional partners of Alachua County, all of our regional partners in economic development are coming together monthly now so that we work as a true region, and we are expanding that daily and inviting others. And then the International Council of Gainesville is the council that's coming together to help guide us on our international efforts and where we visit and outreach to on an international basis and bring in delegations constantly. Enterprise Florida, the greater Gainesville region, is now at the table with Enterprise Florida. You are part of the Team Florida Marketing Initiative. Therefore, we participate now with a seat at the table at all of their major events that the state puts on, and these are just some of the site selector events coming together over the next couple of months. We have another delegation going to Boston on Sunday. They are outreaching to about 12 to 15 different companies in the Boston area, 10 delegates, and again, 12 meetings and several best practice meetings as we undertake that as well. And finally, on the CEO Council, the marketing, the marketer will be in town in July, finally, to undertake the new branding for our business community. And with that comes their oversight and guidance on everything that we do as we market globally this region. So probably more info than you wanted, but I wanted to give you some highlights of what's going on. And I will turn this now over to Daniel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Susan.
Daniel, before Susan goes,
Yes.
Susan goes.
Yes.
So I wanted to thank Scott Costello and Chris Eversole for giving us some copies of this business magazine, because Susan wrote a column in there, and I wanted you to say, what was the quote when the announcement was that you were leaving Austin and coming here and you had a friend call you?
I did, and this is a very true story. And this is one of Austin's business leaders who helped really build so much of the technology infrastructure and just the infrastructure in general in the region. And the first thing he did was pick up the phone and he said, Gainesville, wow, have you heard of that Plum Creek project? What an opportunity. You are smart to be going. That is an outstanding opportunity for that region. They are sitting on something that will be a game changer for them. So,
That's right.
So he was very, very complimentary of my decision.
So it's on page 14 and 15. But I think what's neat is the fact that, here we are in our 4-year anniversary. And we're so...
It's not 4 years yet.
Well, in 2 weeks. So next week, it's 4 years. But for everybody that's been so dedicated, especially the ones who've stuck it out the 4 years, you all are being viewed by folks across the United States for the work that you're doing.
So education, economy, environment, we're talking about land use, physical development is the key piece that we have to present. Were there any comments or questions before we go on to the next section here? Any feedback, any ideas, things we might have missed? Steve?
Oh, it's just wonderful. I mean, it's so strong. It's just,
Yeah.
this is just
The three-part thing.
presentation.
It's really happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.